Scenic Trail today. Take Route 12 north to Mapledale to Route 28 south and left onto Trenton Falls Road. It's time for the Cooper Group's road trip, and it's an American revolution. If you're looking for a vehicle with great MPG, no one offers more than Chevy, and no one serves you better than Seaweaver Chevrolet on Commercial Drive in Yorkville. This week we head to the Queen Village of Oneida County, Camden, and it's a beautiful time to visit her, decked out in her royal autumn robes. The main streets of this village are lined with historic Victorian homes that tell of a proud history.
To see what we can see.
The museum here in Camden is called the Carriage House Museum. That's because it was a carriage house to the home next door, and the home next door is significant because of one of the people who lived there. It's Rich Lormer. Rich Lormer was the architect of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington, Virginia.
The Carriage House Museum houses artifacts directly related to the history of Camden and is also a valuable source of information for genealogists. We asked our tour guide, Ellie, why the village was crowned queen.
Camden is known as the Queen Village of Oneida County, and we got that name because at one time Oneida County decided that they were going to have a contest, and each village, township, whatever, would dress up their shops and their homes. And when they had the contest, Camden was judged the most beautiful at the time, and that's how we became known as the Queen Village.
And the sadness in my heart will always grow.
A recent addition to the museum is the Dibbletown Schoolhouse, the recreation of a local one-room schoolhouse. Richard is the star pupil today and makes a correction on the blackboard.
Inside this prison, I cannot blame me. Inside this prison, I will forever be. All it took.
What is a small country village without its local hardware store? And the hardware store on this main street has been a part of the community for over 150 years.
I tried to run, but I ran much too.
When you walk into Carpenter's hardware store, take time to look at the floor and the ceiling. They're the same floor and ceiling that have been here since 1848 when it first opened as a hardware store. My good friend Jack Plumley started working here when he was 13 years old, and now it's being run by his son Jim. Hardware stores have always been and still are places where people would meet from the community to discuss and talk politics, so that on this very floor there were discussions at some point about slavery and about women's rights and about World War I, World War II, you name it.
Well, my dad was 13 years old when he came to work here in 1942. And at that time, he came to work for a gentleman by the name of Joe McFern. And Mr. McFern had bought the business in 1933. In 1944, 2 years after my dad came to work here, Bud and Thelma Carpenter purchased the business, and my father stayed on. And Mr. and Mrs. Carpenter never had any children, and my mom and dad had 7 kids. So we basically became their adopted family, and we all grew up working here. This place put 7 kids, 7 of us through college, you know, and never left. October 1994. Yeah, it became mine. My wife and I bought it. My wife Danielle and I purchased it be 14 years ago. I can't think of a nicer place in the world to live than Camden, New York, and the hardware business is a fun business. It's not easy, and it seemingly gets tougher by the day. It's a nice business. It's a nice business. We live in a town that provides us a great quality of life. I like the business, and this is what I want to do.
A store that's hard to walk by and resist is Myers Chocolates. Mr. and Mrs. Myers have been creating their delicious confections for nearly a quarter century. We're going to take ours to go because we haven't had our lunch yet.
At the end of a dusty road in a big house.
The smell of autumn is in the air. Or is that cinnamon and pumpkin spice? It's the Garden of Gifts on Main Street.
Life's not fair. She hasn't been acting the same, and they both
As we were walking along Main Street here in Camden, we were drawn to the aroma of fresh coffee and fresh baked goods. Right here, it's the Common Grounds Coffee House, so we had to drop in. We weren't disappointed because they had wraps, they had paninis, they had pastries, all of them homemade. They're also famous for their homemade soups and quiche, and that whole bit about real men don't eat quiche, forget it. I had some quiche, I'm very secure in my masculinity, and I'll tell you, the one that I had sort of took me back to my dad again because his favorite omelet was a Western omelet. Well, they have here a Western omelet quiche, and it was just fantastic. It has pepper, onions, ham, cheese, egg, all thrown together, and you've got to drive out here to Camden to try it yourself. Come in today and order any pastry, and you'll be treated to a cup of Green Mountain fresh roasted coffee.
Here comes a little one walking down the avenue. She's kinda small, but she's got a big